everyone to Taking the Bar, the show where local lawyers and lawmakers talk about law and politics, tell us a little bit about themselves, all while we're having a drink at a local pub. I'm here today with CeCe Gerlach. CeCe has been kind enough to come and answer some tough questions. CeCe is an Allentown resident and community activist. In 2011, CeCe became the youngest person ever elected to the Allentown School Board. She's been a member of the Allentown City Council since 2015, and she's a fierce advocate for affordable housing, among other social justice causes. CeCe, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this drink.
All right. Now, we are here at Blended by Bru Daddy's. It's downtown Allentown, across from the PP&L Center. It's the go-to place if you're going to a Flyers game or a Phantoms game, anything else that you're doing at the PP&L Center. We're here with Eric, who's a general manager here at Blended by Bru Daddy's. And Eric, what do we have? What are we drinking today?
CeCe's having our flagship brew. It is our IPA, Haze Daddy. And Matt here is drinking our brand new Fantastic Encounter. Welcome, friends.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Perfect pour.
Already.
Even
Thank
while
you
he's
so
on
much.
camera.
You're
Look at that. It's like this old hat to him.
There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
Oh,
That's good.
Very nice. Thank you,
Yeah.
Eric.
You're welcome.
All right, I have tough questions for you, CeCe.
Okay. Oh man. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, cool.
All right.
What I'm so impressed by, which is actually we did an interview with Ian Santiago recently.
Oh, she's good people.
She is.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I love about the two of you is that I asked both of you, hey, did you look at the questions I sent? You're like, no, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, you know your shit.
Yeah,
There is no, I need to talk to my campaign manager, I need to talk to my friend or my whatever.
Because it's life. It's your life. You don't have to rehearse your life. You don't have to. Politicians far too often are so like politically correct and try to watch other words, and that's played out. Like people don't want that, and it's harder. Like how do you have a genuine conversation when you have to run it by 20 people?
Well, one of the issues that it's clear that you're most passionate about is affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And the city of Allentown, downtown area has seen tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars pumped in to build new apartment buildings, new, an arena, all things that came with the NIS, the neighborhood improvement zone.
Mm-hmm.
Has the NIS, all the stuff that's happened downtown, has it helped, hurt, or done nothing at all for Allentown residents?
It's hurt. It's hurt in terms of gentrification. I live a couple blocks from here. It's wonderful to look at all the pretty buildings and all the bright colors when you're coming over the bridge. It looks nice, but looking nice doesn't change lives. When you have rents that are skyrocketing and you have people who are working 2-3 jobs, even now in this economy, just to make rent, yet alone pay their utilities or their car note or what have you. Tell me what a tall building does. A tall building just looks good. It doesn't change lives. It doesn't provide family-sustaining jobs. I remember when that arena opened, there was a group of us, downtown residents, and we met in the basement of a church, a local church, a couple blocks away. And our fight was to demand that the jobs would actually go to Allentown residents, because we know far too often they don't. They bring people in from outside of the area and they get the good paying jobs. Meanwhile, we're serving popcorn and sweeping up the floors. So our effort was to change that. And then even now, if you look statistically, this isn't my opinion, this is the data, that the majority of the people who work in Allentown do not live in Allentown. And that's data, and data doesn't lie. So this isn't even an opinion. So we talk about all the building that's been done down here. We're not even working here. We leave the city. People who live in Allentown leave the city. We commute, we take buses, we have to afford gas to get to where we're gonna go. So it's not even a matter of opinion. Do I think it's helped or hurt? It's data. It speaks for itself.
Now, obviously, you've been outspoken on a number of the issues that you're very passionate about, including affordable housing. In 2020, you've already been on city council for, I think, 5 years at that point, and you actually had colleagues of yours on the city council, introduce a resolution to censure you and Council Member Josh Siegel because you participated in a Black Lives Matter rally. Now, what does that say for the possibility of actual social justice reforms getting done in the city of Allentown when you have actual other council members trying to publicly shame you for participating in Black Lives Matter rally?
Yeah, I mean, 2020, what a hell of a year. Multiple rallies. If there was a rally, I went out to Palmerton to rallies. Like, there were groups of us, wherever there was a protest, a rally, a vigil. There was a Muslim association. They had a prayer vigil right there at 7th and Hamilton. I was there. They led a prayer. The Jewish associations, they had different events as well. I protested the hell out of 2020. Loved every moment of it. And it was disheartening to then be censured for my love of social justice, as well as my colleague on council. That came as a shock. I didn't know how to respond, honestly, because I just thought, okay, we're out here, a Black man was murdered, and we all saw it on TV, and we all saw how, horrible it was, and we all on council made statements about how horrible it was. We had 7 minutes.
You're referring to George Floyd, the George
Floyd, yes.
Right.
We had 7 minutes of silence as a body, and so to then be censured by some of the members of the same body was a bit shocking. And in terms of where we go from there, like, look, I've worked with some of those same members since then. It was a shock, but it's 2022 now, and we've worked on addressing the slumlord situation through legislation. Myself and someone who signed on to that censure. I recently worked with someone who signed on to that censure to make a more transparent process to deliver the ARPA money to community organizations. In fact, that person was like the lead sponsor of the resolution. So I think for me, it's not so much will we be able to build this large social justice movement on council. If we're gonna have a movement and we're gonna push these social justice issues, that's gonna come from the people, not the politicians. And that's who I turn to when it comes to actually bringing reforms and fighting for justice, not people I sit on council with. People I sit on council with, we will continue to push forward legislation in other areas to make sure that we're doing right by the citizens, and I can work with them on that. They may not be at the protest and the rallies, but as long as we can put forward legislation to focus on slumlords, that's a win.
Is it fair to say then, if your colleagues on council don't agree with you, your positions, I don't give a fuck?
Yeah, I don't. Look, so here's the thing. You've got to reach a point where you've got to learn when to compromise without compromising who you are and your values. I believe that there's a role for police, but they can't be the only responders. And that's just how I feel. When I look at 40% of the budget is going to the police department, but yet we have an affordable housing crisis and a homeless crisis. And our parks and recreation department needs money. I look at all these other departments that need money, and they're actually serving the everyday lives of our residents. I believe we need to look at the budget, and we need to maybe do some reallocation. And that is not a popular opinion, and I don't care. Yeah, I don't. That's what I believe. And if there's enough voters out there that also believe that, I'll get reelected. If there's not, then I guess I won't.
I mean, that's a perfect segue to my next question, and is that you and Josh Siegel, another council member on Allentown City Council, you guys wrote an op-ed back in, I believe it was November, or actually, yeah, I think it was November of last year. And the title was basically Defund the Allentown Police. And despite the name, really the op-ed was about reallocating funds from the police department to other social services.
Yeah.
Do you think that the moniker of Defund the Police is kind of dragging the movement of what I would consider to be reallocation of funds, or do you think it's just okay the way it is, and you're going to keep pursuing the defund the police narrative?
So, I mean, I think using the term defund the police definitely sparks a conversation. I would argue that if it wasn't for protesters in 2020 using that term, you wouldn't even have this question. So just the term itself sparks a conversation. It's definitely easier to scream and chant defund the police than reallocation of funds at a protest. So there's a certain ring to it. But in terms of like practicality, we're talking about reallocation of resources. That's what we're talking about. If you're at a protest, then yeah, you're going to scream defund the police, because again, you're not going to scream reallocation of resources. That just doesn't have the buzz. And I think that's what's more important. And I think what's more important is having conversations, so that when someone who has heard defund the police and they envision an old lady being murdered in her house because all the cops are gone, that we can sit down with her and we can have that conversation and really explain what reallocation looks like. The semantics, I'll leave that to an expert.
Perfect. So there was an article in the Morning Call, actually, I think it was a week ago, discussing the fact that you voted against adding 6 new Allentown police officers to the police
Oh yeah, I
force.
have voted against adding all police officers since I've been on council.
So you were quoted in that article as saying, public safety is more than police. It's housing, it's parks and recreation, it's access to mental health. Yes, you have to invest in public safety, but that encompasses more than just police. What do you mean by that?
Oh, it's the root causes. If you're hungry and you don't have a job, you're going to do what you have to do to eat and to get money. And sometimes that might mean committing some type of crime. So if we make sure that people are fed and they are housed, they are less likely to commit crimes. We just had a city council meeting the other night where there's even studies out of Philadelphia where neighborhoods, blocks that look good, they're pretty, they are beautified, they have community gardens, they don't have trash, they have less crime. And that's not the police job. That's parks and recreation. That's sweep. That's public works. So if we continue to think about public safety as only cops, then we will never, ever actually decrease crime. Because if you think about it, a cop doesn't show up until after the body's on the ground. We want to prevent that body from getting on the ground. And how do you prevent that body from getting on the ground? You make sure that person and the person who picked up the gun and pulls the trigger has access to opportunities and knows that he or she has a future. And how do you provide that future? By getting to the root causes, not just having cops patrol the streets and living in like a police state. We need to make sure that we're going out into the neighborhoods that are blighted and that we're fixing the blight. We need to go out and we need to increase home ownership. We need to make sure that people have jobs. We need to good paying jobs where they can thrive. We need to focus on the educational system so that people don't end up on 4th Street. That's what we need to focus on, the prevention aspect, not just once the body's already on the ground and once the person's already in the cell. So when I say public safety, we have to look more holistically. That's what I mean. It's more prevention. It's sending credible messengers out into the neighborhoods, people who have been in the system, people who are maybe in gangs or have been in gangs, and having them have conversations with folks on the block instead of a guy with a gun and a badge.
CeCe, thank you so much.
Cool.
It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, you too. All right.
Thank you. That's all the time we have. I want to thank CeCe Gerlach, who is on Allentown City Council. CeCe, before we go, anything that you want to pitch, promote, please tell us. Whatever you want. Speaking to that camera right there, you got it.
Sure, yeah. So, in the other part of my life, I am an organizer for Lehigh Valley Stands Up, and Lehigh Valley Stands Up organizes throughout the Lehigh Valley, and we organize about the issues we were just talking about here today: affordable housing, social justice, police accountability. So if you're interested, if this is making you jump up and down and say, I want to get involved, Lehigh Valley Stands Up is the organization that you need to check us out online.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right, cool.
CeCe, thank you. And thank you to Blended by Bru Daddy's, down here in Allentown. Thank you to Eric, the general manager. If you're ever coming downtown, you're trying to go to PP&L Center, you're going to a Flyers game, I should say a Phantoms game, anything else PP&L Center, this is a place to be. They have great specials, great, everything that's going on here is perfect. The food's amazing. Thank you so much. Be safe. Don't drink and drive, and always tip your bartender. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.